Welcome back to that Grief Relief podcast. Don't know what episode number this is. Don't know what episode number I'm going to put it out at. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
Rewind.
No, we'll be totally fine. For some reason, some episodes I introduce myself and some I don't. But I'm so used to saying, hi, I'm Katie Overy. I don't know, so I should really just stick to it. So welcome to that Grief Relief podcast. My name is Katie Overy. This week, I'm joined by Lara. Please say your surname.
Khoury.
So much better than me pronouncing it. Khoury. That's what
It works.
I know, but it's so bad, isn't it? Lara, how are you first and foremost?
I'm very well, thank you.
Good. Thank you for coming on. How do we know each other?
Oh gosh. First of all, thank you for inviting me on.
Of course.
How do we know each other? We somehow potentially did we work together? I can never actually remember if we worked together.
In theory, we never worked together.
Right.
But I worked for a company that organised events with your company.
Yes, but you never actually worked on the event that we were organising, so
No.
I really don't know how we know each other. But it's in there, in that little bubble.
All in the same thing.
Yeah.
We have a lot of similar people, and you worked really closely with my brother Oliver.
Yes, it did.
As well. So,
Yes, it did.
Of which, when Lara first reached out to me a few weeks ago, said, "Oh, I don't know if you remember me, but I used to work with your brother Oliver," and I said, "Oh, Oliver and his wife are having a baby." I was like, "Oh my god!" Yeah.
I still can't believe it. I still can't believe it.
You can't believe it. This is my little baby brother we're talking about. Yeah. Now, the reason I invited you onto the podcast was perhaps a little bit odd for you. So if I explain, if you're listening at home, so Lara reached out to me just in terms of, I guess, kind of social media advice and blog and vlog advice, and how to get words out for a cause that you are trying to spread a lot of awareness for. Which we'll get into. And it was during our conversations that I picked up on something from Lara, that she was missing an element in her life, as in that she used to have in her life. And therefore we were discussing weird and wonderful ways that you grieve things.
Yeah.
And I know that you are grieving your former life, as it were. So, no, it sounds really odd, doesn't it?
No, it doesn't. It's that when you said it, I honestly couldn't believe that you picked up on that, because in the years that I have been grieving, nobody has actually spoken to me about it. And I don't know if that's because they haven't realized that I'm grieving, that this is a source of grief, or because they don't know how to talk to me about it. So whereas they're all very helpful, and in the beginning, almost everyone I knew, family, friends, they were all sending me articles about it, and they were trying their best to help. But none of them actually asked, how are you feeling? How are you dealing with this emotionally?
Yeah.
So when you picked up on it within
first
like the
thing
15 minutes that we sat down, I was just like, wait, what?
Yeah, that was the strange thing about it. And I guess as well, obviously, you know me, I'm bold as brass, so I will kind of ask anything. And I think that's, again, the kind of learnings that I want to get across on the podcast, is that almost don't be afraid to ask. I could have asked you a question, you could have been offended, although knowing it was from a good place, and then just said, I'd rather not talk about it.
Yeah.
And then we just move on and we'll carry on with our coffee, and we would have had a lovely time anyway. True. So, Lara, tell me what you are grieving, what you're going through, and let's spread some awareness and try and help the community that you're in, is the best way of putting it.
Yeah, because that is why I should say I reached out to Katie because I knew she had this podcast, and I've been trying to spread awareness of something called fibromyalgia, which a few years ago no one had heard of. As far as I knew, no one had heard of. And now more and more people, medical practitioners and lay people alike, sort of, they understand that there is this thing, although they don't understand exactly what it is. So I started a blog and a vlog to spread awareness, because I've gone through, and I thank COVID for this, and I said this to you when we met, COVID gave me the gift of time. Had I been employed, had I had work the way I had been working before COVID, I wouldn't have had the time to do all of the research that I had done and to understand all of the elements, all of the facets of having and treating and healing from fibromyalgia.
So, what is fibromyalgia?
Ooh.
We're just recreating our coffee morning, aren't we?
So far. Fibromyalgia literally means pain in your fibers.
Okay.
It's pain in your soft tissue. And
is it a Greek-based word or a Latin-based word?
That's a very good question. Algia, I think it's Latin. I think it's Latin. I used to know this. And what I've realized is different people feel it differently.
Okay.
It presents itself differently to different people. So what I'm feeling isn't necessarily what somebody else is feeling, but there are similarities. So, and there are degrees of pain. So essentially what it is for some as yet undetermined reason, your pain receptors are sending false signals to your brain telling you that you hurt anywhere in your body.
Even though you're not.
Even though you're not.
Okay.
Now, for some people, and I have met, not here in Dubai, but through social media, Facebook, what have you, I have met people in different parts of the world who've got fibro, and different things will set it off. So there's a lady that I met in Ireland, and for her, cold weather sets off her fibromyalgia.
She doesn't want to live in Ireland, does she?
I know, right? So what she's done is she's invested in a hot tub.
Oh, wow. Right.
And so when the pain gets really bad, she'll go into the hot tub and she'll relax.
Okay, take a step back one
Sure.
second. So fibromyalgia means pain of the fibers. And when you say fibers, you mean the fiber of your entire body.
Yes.
And can you talk me through, are you in pain now?
Right now, no.
Okay, touch wood.
Touch wood, yeah.
When are you in pain? I've got so many questions actually.
Shoot, throw them.
My friend Rochelle's going to be listening to this. She asks all the questions. But my questions literally that are coming to my brain are, what's the level of pain? Are they shooting pains? Is it a dull pain? Do you rank it from 1 to 10? Do you know what changes yours? Is there a more common reason that brings on the pain? Like, I'm fascinated by it. Like, do you sleep? Do you train? Do you...
Right.
I've got go with any of those.
I can answer all of those. Different. So right now, no, I'm not in pain.
Okay.
But what sets it off for me is my body deciding to determine what it feels is trauma. So, for example, when I first had these pains, and I didn't know what they were, and I should say it took 3 years of being misdiagnosed by GPs and specialists, and
wow.
I was living in pain for so many years. Didn't know what it was. So I went out and I tried things by myself. I tried Ayurveda, I tried acupuncture, I tried massages, and I can't get a massage because afterwards my body will hurt for weeks or months. There are some pains that I've had for years and they've diminished now because I've learned how to calm my system. And this is something that I'll get into in a little bit. Just not right now.
No, yeah.
But I know that my body needs to have physical contact with something, which it will then decide is traumatic and it will then hurt.
Okay.
So, a few years ago, I banged my thumb on the steering wheel of the car. It hurt for months afterwards.
And it wasn't a big bang?
No. Just your normal kind of bump. There are days where, the other day I was deep cleaning my kitchen. Mm-hmm. My wrist started hurting by the end of it, just because I was putting enough consistent pressure on it that it was like, I've had enough. No. So when it comes to things like training, for example, I've had to quit body pump, which I absolutely used to love, because I couldn't hold the bar anymore. Because the way my fibro works is it spreads from different parts of my body at different times. So I didn't have it in my fingers a few years ago, but I have it now. So I can't grip the bar. Otherwise, my fingers go numb and they clamp up and then I can't move them, and that's dangerous. So we quit body pump.
Of course, right, yeah.
I haven't run for years. I can't swim because all of these things, my body will eventually decide this hurts. But then it gets even weirder because there are times, where my body hasn't necessarily been hurt, but it decides it's in pain. And I've got a pain for you that you're going to love. I had a pain that I called my Wolverine pain.
Oh, no.
A few years ago. So you know how, yeah, exactly. For some odd reason, suddenly when I would, and I don't know how I discovered this, but when I would push my fingers back just on my left hand, it would feel like I had spikes right there that were going to come out. And that's why I called it my Wolverine pain. And I would sit there and just kind of bend my fingers backwards just to see how far back can they go. Now it's fine. I don't have this pain anymore. And then there are pains that have been there for years, and those aren't going anywhere. So my back hurts, has done. It was the first place that started really hurting. I twisted my left ankle. I fell off. I was learning how to ride a motorcycle.
Okay, as you do.
As you do. It was brilliant. Got my license as well.
Nice, me too.
I went through the pain. Yeah. I would not, because at the time,
how funny.
I fell off. My ankle got caught in the wheel of the motorcycle, twisted.
Ow.
That's fine. Didn't hurt. It cracked the way your knuckles crack.
Okay.
And it was fine. No swelling, no nothing. I went to the doctor. He's like, oh, it's a simple sprain. It'll be fine. It's never gone back to normal. So I can't wear high heels anymore.
Right, okay.
It will hurt. So the back, the ankle, at the time as well, this wrist started hurting. So I would wrap myself up underneath everything so that the instructors couldn't see, because I was determined to get my license. That was very stupid retrospectively. I should not have done that. But I got my license.
Yeah, it's something you wanted.
Yeah, it was a goal. And I've learned how to, I mean, at the time I didn't know it was fibro. I know it now. But I still now have learned how to push myself, and when I can push myself, when I can't push myself.
Okay. Sorry, what was you said you started off with the back pain. That was the initial one. What kind of pain was it? Because not obviously, but we all get a backache.
Yeah.
Every now and again.
Which is what I thought I had.
Right. But there must have been something that was different.
It was when my nephew was learning how to walk.
Okay.
And I spent about 2 weeks. I was on holiday in Beirut with my family, and he was a very stubborn learner because he didn't want to hold on to anything. He was adamant, and he wouldn't even hold on to your hand. He wanted to be propped up from under his armpits so that his hands were free to touch whatever he wanted to touch.
I see.
So I spent 2 weeks bent over, lifting him from under his armpits, and then I just couldn't straighten afterwards. And you'd think, obviously, back pain is going to happen. And I have injured my back previously. So I just thought, okay, and by this time I was in my mid-30s. I was 35.
You asked where the cat was.
Hello, pussycat.
Hi, Poppy.
Welcome back.
Thanks for making an entrance, as always, in the podcast and on YouTube.
Have a seat. Just don't mess anything on the laptop. Laptop. Mommy spent a whole long time on there.
Carry on.
So I just thought, okay, my body's getting older. It's one of those, you see in the movies, oh, my trick knee is playing up, it's going to rain.
Yeah.
I thought I had just developed one of those situations. My back is just going to start hurting.
Yeah.
And I went to the GPs time and time again, and they gave me B vitamins and all those things. Did not help. And in fact, at one point when I could stand up straight, because for a long while I couldn't stand up straight. Oof. And bear in mind, I was employed full time. So I had to get up and I had to go to work and I had to function. And eventually, and this is still the case now, I couldn't sleep for more than 6 hours because my back would start hurting. And I always get confused how to explain this. I could only lie down for 6 hours in any 24-hour period, and the 6 hours didn't have to be consecutive.
Okay.
So say I go to sleep.
Why do you think after it totaled 6 hours?
I don't know. But it used to happen that I would go to bed at midnight, 6 o'clock, the pain in my back would wake me up, and that's it, I would be awake. And then I'd either continue sleeping, I'd try to sit and continue sleeping, or I would have to move around through the pain, like go to work and function. This got very, very annoying during the weekends if I wanted to go to the beach, because it meant I couldn't go and lie down in the sun because I'd slept for 6 hours.
Yeah.
So it just made life really awkward. I've subsequently learned there's something, when you've gotten the pain under control, you still get something called Fibro Flares.
Okay.
Which is when the pain in your body will flare up for no specific reason.
Yeah.
And there are days when it actually hurts to breathe, because as I take the air in, my back hurts, my chest hurts, my stomach hurts, and I end up breathing like because I can't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I just can't breathe. Those are rare. Fibro flares really are rare, not just for me, but in general, they are rare. It's more, and you were asking what kind of pain it is.
Yeah.
I mean, the Wolverine pain, that was a sharp one.
Of course.
But generally, it's a dull ache. And sometimes it's not even pain. So with my ankle, for example, it's not pain. I can just feel that it's weak.
Okay, right. So you're always conscious of it, aren't
Yeah.
you? Yeah.
And that's how fibro presents for me.
I mean, it
really.
just sounds... It's. I mean, obviously, it sounds horrendous.
It is.
The thing that gets me is the whole... It's there. It's a constant. And the fact that it's only just recently been been diagnosed, finishing that sentence. I mean, I dread to think what you went through, and in fairness, the medical professionals, because they must have just been like, not a clue.
Nope.
How did they then end up being able to diagnose it?
Well, I wasn't diagnosed here. I should mention that.
Okay.
After about 2 years, and also, and this goes out to anybody with fibro, I had different practitioners tell me literally, don't know what's wrong with you, can't help you, go home.
Right.
And that's simply because they haven't got the tools. Like, the medical profession is not set up to diagnose and treat something like fibro. Your GP is not set up to do that. You need a functional medicine practitioner or a psychoneuroimmunologist. And I do talk about these gentlemen on my blog, because they will look at, and this is important when it comes to fibro, because there's no physical reason for fibromyalgia. So it has been classed, for lack of a better classification, as a psychological or a psychiatric disorder.
Really?
Yes. So when I go to get my meds, and there are different medications, the first type of meds that doctors will go for when treating fibro is antidepressants. And sometimes it's antidepressants with a calmant. I never know, not a tranquilizer. Xanax.
Oh, yeah.
You know the one, guys, right? Okay, so that stuff. I know.
You are like, it is like tranquilizer.
But yeah, that's that stuff. You guys know what Xanax is.
We all know Xanax. Yeah,
So,
I'll
yeah.
add it afterwards.
Yes.
Why can't I think of the right word?
I can never think of the right word either.
And
But
this is that annoying point in the podcast where someone's driving at the moment, screaming at both of us.
I know.
Pair of idiots.
It's this.
Okay, right.
But so that's what, and obviously it's psychiatrists who will give you antidepressants. The other medication that's used is actually anti-seizure medication, either pregabalin or gabapentin, which
Okay.
are similar. I'm on pregabalin, which is an anti-seizure medication, and it also treats nerve damage caused by diabetes. And if you read the insert, it does say also for the treatment of fibromyalgia.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
So I'm on that. It's helped. The pain has subsided. It's gotten the pain under control. The pain hasn't gone away. But yeah, it's under control. And how I got diagnosed, just before you ask your other question, because I can feel the other question coming.
My brain is going crazy because I've got so many questions.
I went to Beirut. Now, there was a gentleman here who had said that he knew exactly what was wrong with me, and I was MRI'd from top to bottom. My entire body had passed through MRIs and X-rays and all of that stuff. And he said, I know exactly what's wrong with you. You need surgery. We're going to start on your knees. I was like, all right, this man can cure me, because he was so confident. I was like, yes. And I told my parents, and they said, no. And I was sat there going, how can you say no? I have finally found someone after all these years who says he can cure me of my pain.
Yeah.
Why would you deny me this? And bear in mind, by then, I was not taking any medication or anything, so it hadn't been diagnosed. There are days I'm crying. And Reem, if you're listening to this, I know you remember what it was like working with me on those during that time.
Gosh, yeah, with a full-time job, that must have been horrendous.
I had this one colleague, and she saw the pain. I mean, she's like, she is family to me. There were days where we would have to go somewhere. We'd get in the car, I'd sit in the front, and I would put the chair all the way back because I couldn't sit up straight. And we're going to a meeting, and I'm in the back, curled up in a fetal position, because that's what hurts my back less, trying to get to work. Anyway, so I get to Beirut. My parents are like, no, you will not. Now, my parents don't agree on much. So when they agree on something, you kind of pay attention. Pay attention. So I did. And it was really funny, because my mom has a specialist that she likes, and my dad has a specialist that he likes, and there's a specialist they both like.
Oh, About that one lucky specialist.
I know, right? So I went to see all three.
Oh, okay.
Katie, I kid you not, the conversation went exactly the same with all three.
Oh, no.
I walked in to the first specialist. As I'm closing the door, he's asking how he can help me. And I said, well, everything hurts. And as I'm walking to sit down, he goes, well, how old are you? And I think I was 34 at the time, maybe 35. And he asked me, are you stressed? And by this time, my bum's on the seat. He's like, are you stressed? I said, well, who's not stressed? Are you not stressed? Are you guys not stressed? Everyone's stressed. And he goes, you have fibromyalgia. This is within 30 seconds of me walking into this gentleman's clinic after years of, going to see doctors and specialists. And he's with full confidence going, you have fibromyalgia. Now, fibromyalgia had been coming up when I was researching my symptoms, trying to figure out what was wrong with me, going on WebMD and Google.
Oh,
and
no,
stuff.
Don't do that. We're all going to die when we look at things like that.
But I needed to know something. Like, it just did not make sense. How could I be in pain all the time and doctors don't know what's wrong with me? And fibromyalgia kept coming up, but I read the list of symptoms and I didn't have any of them. I didn't have trouble concentrating. I didn't have trouble sleeping except for the pain, but it wasn't like I couldn't fall asleep. There was like a list of maybe 7, 8 symptoms, and I had one, which was the constant pain. So I thought, well, I can't have this if I've only got the one symptom. Yeah. So he's like, no, you have fibromyalgia. And he prescribes the antidepressant and the Xanax. And I just thought, this man's crazy. But I went to the second specialist. Exactly the same thing happens. As I'm walking in, how old are you? What's wrong with you? And I said to them, do you not want to see the MRIs? And the first one, he humored me. He looked at the MRI of my wrist, where the specialist here who was going to operate had said to me, you've got ganglions all over the place. We need to remove them. And so he looks at the MRI and he goes, so where are the ganglions? I said, I don't know. You're the doctor. You read them. He goes, no, I'm asking because I can't see them.
Anything.
And then he looked at my wrist and he saw, like, I've got all these little holes in my wrist. He's like, if you had ganglions, they'd be poking out right here.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. The second specialist didn't even bother. He's like, I do not want to see these MRIs. I don't need them. You have fibromyalgia. You will take pregabalin. I went to the third specialist, exactly the same thing. And he also prescribed pregabalin. So I was like, all right, pregabalin, 2 votes out of 3. I'll go with that. And that's how I discovered that I've got fibro.
That's bizarre. Was there an outbreak of fibromyalgia in Beirut? A genuine question. Like, how were they all so well versed?
I don't know.
In it. I guess you don't know and you don't care. You were diagnosed and therefore you were able to treat it.
Yeah.
And keep it under control.
And keep it under control. And now I do go and see a psychiatrist because it's a psychiatrist who can prescribe pregabalin for extended periods of time.
Right. In the UAE, because in Lebanon
even in
it's
Beirut.
Different. Oh, really?
Yeah, even in Beirut.
Right, okay, fine.
So in Beirut, I also see a psychiatrist simply to get my meds.
Right. Okay.
Because other doctors can prescribe, but they can only prescribe it for a short period of time. Okay. For what I need.
Yeah.
And it's a controlled medication, by the way. Yeah. So
the whole kind of you used a word to describe what it was. Not a physical. You said it's not a physical condition.
It's mental, emotional, psychiatric. No one knows.
Yeah. I find that fascinating. So does that mean, therefore, that you literally aren't experiencing pain, but your brain tells you are? I know I know that's pretty kind of what you said at the beginning.
Yeah, pretty much. I am not in actual pain, but my brain and my nervous system is just going a little bit haywire. And I mean, no one knows why, really. No one has any idea why. And that's why I said you need a functional medicine practitioner, because these people look at your entire environment, your entire self. They will even look at your past. And when I say COVID gave me the gift of time, between lockdown, because this is when it started, was in lockdown last year.
Not when fibro started.
No.
That was what, 3...
This was fibro...
6 years ago, you said.
6 years, something like that, yeah.
But 3 years ago, you were diagnosed.
I was diagnosed, yeah. 4 years ago now. God, I keep forgetting that 2020 happened.
Yeah, let's just forget it.
I wish I could. But it is a year of my life.
Something good just come from it.
But something good came out of it, which is I've put in also considering the research that I'd done before, but most of it came during last year's COVID lockdown and curfews and all of that. I've put in over 100 hours of research into fibromyalgia and healing from fibromyalgia. And there is so much, and I've tried these things on myself as well. So when I write about things on my blog, when I talk about them on my vlog, I've got first-hand experience with pretty much everything that I'm talking about. And I haven't tried it just willy-nilly. No, I like I say, there's a psychiatrist here who I go to for my meds. So if I'm going to test out supplements, for example, because a lot of practitioners will test out supplements, 5-HTP, tryptophan, for example, these are what help with serotonin.
Okay.
And serotonin is our little feel-good hormone, which, by the way, is not created in the brain. Just FYI, guys.
Where is it created?
In your gut.
Oh, well.
Up to 95.
Food leads to happiness.
Up to 95%. Yeah, food does lead to happiness, and hence comfort eating, which I do a lot of. But yeah, up to 95% of serotonin is created in your gut, not in your brain.
Wow.
So when I'm testing out supplements, for example, I will talk to my psychiatrist before I try anything. Nutrition. I worked with a psychoneuroimmunologist, and I do talk about him a little bit on my blog. He was the first one who started treating me with food, because fibro comes with other physical, I'll call it manifestations, and usually hormone imbalances. And I've had 2 hormone imbalances in my life. One was prolactin, which is what releases milk when ladies want to breastfeed. Is prolactin. But when you're not breastfeeding and you've got excess prolactin, there are other side effects. For me, it was weight gain.
Right.
And I did go to see an endocrinologist at the time. This was before I had the fibro. So I always think to myself, wow, that was a warning sign and I didn't know it. Because the endocrinologist said to me, I'm not going to give you meds because your levels aren't high enough to warrant that, but you need to figure out how to de-stress. And at the time, I was just really, really annoyed with him because I just wanted to be fixed. Eventually, I did go to another specialist and he gave me meds and that was fine.
Right.
But then afterwards, I developed a second hormone imbalance, which was insulin.
Oh, God.
So I am pre-diabetic.
Yeah.
And that's when I started working with Jamie, my psychoneuroimmunologist, because despite everything that I was doing, I gained about 2 stone for no reason in 2 years.
Okay, hang on, because I know what stone is.
It's 14 kilograms.
There you go. Otherwise, I'll just get someone complaining.
Sorry, it's about 14 kilograms.
Yeah.
And I was eating healthy. I would have, for example, lunch was bran flakes with low-fat milk, and then dinner would be sort of brown rice and salmon, not fried, poached or baked in the oven, whatever. So really healthy. I was going to the gym, body pumping, RPMing, yogaing, and I was gaining weight, and it was ridiculous. So eventually, and this is where it gets dangerous, I did a whole bunch of tests and everything came back normal. So while I was going for the fibro pain, I was also going for the weight gain. And it wasn't until I started working with Jamie that he figured out, working with nutrition, that I was now lactose intolerant and insulin resistant.
Right.
And my insulin levels were through the roof. Insulin is a hormone.
Okay.
And as soon as we fixed my eating, the weight just went...
Really?
2 weeks. Worst 2 weeks of my life.
Yeah.
Because I had zero energy, could not stay awake at work. Reem, the colleague whose family...
This poor girl. This poor Reem. I
know.
I thought I put my colleagues through some stuff.
No, Katie, she was brilliant. I would fall asleep at my desk, sort of angled away from everyone, and she would...
What was that?
That was my phone, just fell off randomly.
Oh my God, did that make you jump?
Well, no, because I saw it at the corner of my eye, but you didn't.
I didn't.
Sorry.
Carry on. So you'd fall asleep at your desk, yeah.
And she'd wake me up if someone needed me or if the phone was ringing, because I could not stay awake. I was so thirsty. I've never been thirsty like this in my life. I was drinking up to 5 liters of water a day. It was uncontrollable, the thirst. I could not... It was.
No way.
Yes. 5 liters of water a day. That's a lot of water, guys.
Yeah.
But that was happening at the same time as the fibro.
Yeah.
There was another thing happening.
Oh my goodness.
Have you heard of something called tinnitus or tinnitus?
Yes.
So I have that.
as on top of that. Is that connected to the fibro, do you think?
Yes.
Okay.
I've learned that most people who have fibro or chronic fatigue syndrome also have tinnitus.
Explain what I would pronounce it tinnitus.
Tinnitus,
but it doesn't matter. But if you
Americans pronounce it tinnitus. Brits pronounce it tinnitus.
What is it?
It is ringing in the ears. So if you imagine when you go to a nightclub, if you stood, I know.
Please don't talk about nightclubs. I really want one.
Sorry, but in the good old PC days,
it's like with the Roaring '20s.
I know. We got a new BC now, haven't we? Before COVID.
Oh no!
Yes.
I hadn't really thought about that.
So in the BC days, in the new millennium BC days, when you went to a nightclub, if you stood too close to the speaker, the next day your ears would be ringing, and that's what tinnitus is. It's that kind of ringing in your ears. Some people have it in one ear, some people have it in both. For some people it comes and goes, for some people it's consistent. Can you guess which one I am?
Oh, I can imagine you are both and you are consistent.
There you go.
Oh my God.
And volume and pitch will differ. So there are things that will set it off. Stress, for instance. And like everybody talks about stress these days, but honestly, it is the number one thing that we deal with when we are mapping our healing journey from or through fibro. I don't know what the right word is. And that's what I learned last year. And when you're doing that, it incorporates so much stuff. The first thing you do is meditation. I've never been able to meditate, but dang, bang it, last year I learned. Okay. And this is somebody else that I talk about in my blog. There's a gentleman called Alex Howard.
Okay.
Who runs a clinic called the Optimum Health Clinic in England. And he was running an online program called the Reset Program, where he teaches you how to reset your system. And when I say system, I'm talking your entire your gut brain connection. You reset that. You reset your nervous system. You reset everything, and it doesn't happen overnight. It takes a long time. And the first thing that he teaches you is meditation. So I learned how to do that. But then you learn different things, like how to work with your inner critic, how to work with your inner child. You learn about the fight-flight response. You got flight, fight, freeze. So you learn about that. You learn about something called the vagus nerve, which, I know not many people know that we've got one of those.
No, and I've been to Vegas, and things did get on my nerves.
Sure they did.
What's a vagus nerve? Is it an actual nerve in our body?
It is an actual nerve in our body. It is
recently discovered?
Not recently discovered, but only recently given. And when you learn what the vagus nerve is, you're going to be like, why are we not talking about this before?
Okay.
Recently given the attention it deserves. So the vagus nerve is the largest cranial nerve we have. It goes from the base of your skull all the way down, right? And it passes the back of your body, not the front, but it hits every organ on the way down. Your heart, your lungs, your gut, your liver. It goes through all of your organs.
Major organs.
And it is responsible for your parasympathetic responses, which is your fight, flight, freeze.
Okay.
Now, after flight, fight, you go into either freeze or rest.
Okay.
And when you go into rest, that's when your vagus nerve calms everything down, calms your entire system down.
Makes sense.
And it's when your system is calm that your cells regenerate, heal themselves, do what they need to do to keep you healthy. And with fibro and chronic fatigue syndrome, the theory is that the vagus nerve isn't functioning the way that it should. And so you're not going into rest and your cells aren't regenerating. They're not healing. They're not resting. Instead, you're going into freeze, which feels like rest only because you're not in fight or flight. So you think you're okay.
Okay.
But you're not.
Okay.
You just don't know it. And so you learn ways, and Alex teaches you this, you learn how to stimulate the vagus nerve, which some ways are not fun at all. Things like gagging, for example. Because the thing is, the vagus nerve is most easily accessible at the back of the throat. So anything, I'm sorry, Katie, I'm so sorry.
This is like pretty traumatic, but you have to go through it. But
there are people who have to go through it, and I know this is a lot of information.
No,
this is
I love
so
it.
much
No,
information.
it's really interesting.
Telling COVID, gift of time.
Yeah.
So anything that causes vibration at the back of your throat, will stimulate the vagus nerve. So you try gagging, you try gargling. I don't like those.
Okay.
I sing.
Okay.
And the reason I sing is because my voice, you can hum, you can chant, anything that goes,
that vibrates
exactly.
Okay.
I sing mainly because my voice is really strong and I live alone.
Okay.
So
I was going to say, if Vreen comes up again, I'm like...
She's heard me sing.
Oh, God.
She has heard me sing at karaoke. I miss my karaoke nights. I'm sorry, but I do. I miss my karaoke nights at stables. Oh man, will we ever sing into a microphone? Like, I know, see this microphone.
Don't
it's at your place.
even think about singing into my microphone.
No, I'm not going to sing into your microphone.
Step away. I saw you looking at it.
Step away.
Step away from the microphone.
No,
okay, but you're stimulating your vagus.
Stimulate the vagus nerve by singing really loud, really strong, and not even for a long time. 30 seconds in the morning, 30 seconds in the evening, and we're done. And it's fine. Meditation also. But because when you meditate, you're focusing on your breathing. And when you're taking the deep breaths, we're talking about deep breaths that push your belly up. That kind of deep breath is the one that you want to be taking. And that stimulates the vagus nerve as well.
And why are you stimulating the nerve?
Stimulate the nerve so that it does its job of calming your system down.
Right. Okay.
Now,
why is it called the vagus nerve?
I don't know. It's called the vagus nerve.
Really?
I have no idea.
Can you find out? Because that would be really interesting to know. Because that's an odd name.
It is an odd name. But, those Greeks and Romans, when they were, doing their dues, I don't know, but I will find out for you.
So we don't know why it's called the vagus
Don't know why it's called the Las Vegas nerve, but... Yeah, so there is that. Meditation. There's something called tapping as well. I don't know if you know about tapping.
Not like cupping?
Not like cupping.
Okay.
It's also called EFT. I forget what the emotional something therapy, I forget. And yes, like you said, there's somebody out there screaming what EFT is. Yeah. Can't hear you.
I literally wouldn't have a clue.
No. But basically you start, you tap on the side over here and you say something like, I don't know why I have this pain in my body, but I accept it and I accept myself fully. And you do that a few times and then you start tapping different points in your body. You tap under your armpits, you tap top of your head, and that works for some people.
Just that just sounds, and this is awful, that just sounds like mumbo jumbo to me.
I'll tell you what, it did work for me for the tinnitus. I did have one day where there was no ringing in my ears whatsoever, but then it came back, which was really annoying. I can't tell you. Like, I did cry when it came back. I honestly did. But tapping, it works.
Okay, fair enough. You can't knock it if it works.
Exactly. So like I say, I've tried all of these things. And, I mean, this is just a little bit of information. There is so much more that goes into understanding. And this is what I wanted to do. And this is why, like we said, I got in touch with you, is because I have all this information. And I know that there are people out there in pain. Yeah. And I have the pain and I have the tools to deal with the pain. So I'm kind of bridging that gap between the layperson and the practitioner. And, literally, like, your practitioner sits there. Now, Alex is really good at this as well, because Alex, who developed the Reset program, and he used to have chronic fatigue syndrome.
Right.
So everything that he talks about, he's been through with healing from chronic fatigue syndrome. And do you know what? It makes all the difference. Yeah. And that's what I wanted to do with fibro. Is just
the GoPro, it's fine.
Ah, yes.
GoPro's finished. Stop beeping. Okay.
It did. It's so obedient.
And that's what you wanted to do, wasn't it? Was to spread the awareness, because in terms of, are there, again, I've got loads of questions.
Shoot.
All that's in my mind is, how many people around the world have got this and know they have it? How many people around the world don't know, but they might have it? Are there any support groups for this? Like, I can only imagine finding out you have something like this, or maybe you have something like this, and finding your blog and vlog and just thinking, oh my God, that I'm not on my own.
Yeah. There are support groups around the world, few and far between, not necessarily extremely well informed.
Okay.
Just because it's such a new area of work. And a lot of the groups are still focused, a lot of the groups that I've found still focus on medication more than anything. They focus on movement. And this is the weird thing about fibro. It hurts to move, but it hurts not to. So you have got to find that kind of middle ground where you can move without hurting yourself. Even on the days when it hurts to breathe, you still have to do something. How many people around the world have it? It's estimated, because the thing with fibro is it is a diagnosis by elimination. So it's only once you eliminate anything else that it could be that you get to that fibro diagnosis. So it takes a while to diagnose. It's estimated that 13 million people in the US have fibro. We don't know the number globally, but it's probably around about your 20 million mark.
That's ridiculous.
That's a lot of people.
That's a lot of people.
That is a lot of people.
There's also a lot of people potentially going through something that they have no clue about. And then in my mind, if there's 20 million people who have been diagnosed and have it, what's that number of people that haven't got a clue?
I know, right?
And haven't been diagnosed.
I know. Who are still sat there living in pain, not knowing, and having the GP tell them, if this medication hasn't helped, then I can't help you, go home. Which is just such a horrible, horrible thing to hear. It's like they've given up on me, but yet I'm in pain.
Yeah. And to be in constant pain.
And this is, I will always be grateful to that first practitioner that I saw, because he said to me something that has carried me through these last few years, which is, he said to me, don't let anyone tell you that what you feel isn't there. Your pain is real.
Yeah.
There's no reason for it. There's no physical reason that we know about, but your pain is real. And I was just like, yes, it is very real. Thank you very much. I love you now. So yeah, 13 million people estimated in the US, probably around 20 globally. There are a few support groups. With all the searching that I had done, I hadn't found a support group. There was allegedly one here that I found on Facebook, but they haven't functioned for I don't know how many years. So I don't know if they're still here or not. It is, like I say, it's just something that's so new.
Yeah.
So we're kind of making it up as we go along.
Well, absolutely. And I think I just love the fact that you want to help other people, go through this, because I think it's what you would have wanted. You would have loved to have found someone like you. Yeah. When you were kind of going through it.
Absolutely.
Which is then kind of what I want to touch on, which is then going back to why you're here, really, because so if it was 6 to 7 years ago you first started this, feeling these pains, and it's that life that you're now grieving, because your whole life has changed. Yeah. And that's not just, so obviously grief from death is when that loved one is no longer in your life. Of course your life has changed, but I mean literally and physically your life has changed. So I can't even think of an example, but do you look at photographs of you from 10 years ago, say on holiday or even at home with your where are your parents now, in Beirut? Yeah. Do you look there and just think, God, I really wish I was that woman again?
I do. I've still got my heels.
Oh right, of course, the high
heels. They're still there. I see them every day in my closet. I've still got the clothes that I used to wear when I used to go out, which I can't wear. I don't wear them anymore now, because I am a bit heavier than I used to be, because I can't work out the way I used to, and because my body has changed on a cellular level. And that's the thing, when your body changes on a cellular level, you can't fight it. You can't unchange the change. So there's a limit to how far back I can go, and I see this every day when I put on my clothes. I see this every day when I open the closet and I look at the pictures, and I kind of think I wasn't, we go through life knowing we're not going to be young forever, right? Not in our 20s. In our 20s, we all think we're going to be 20 forever. And then in our 30s, we start realizing, like, okay, I'm not going to be young forever. And you kind of start preparing yourself for the fact that you're not going to be young forever. But when your youth is taken from you and you're just not ready for it, I never, even when I was going through this pain really badly, it never occurred to me even then that I wouldn't get back to being the person that I was before the pain. that I wouldn't get back to being the person that I was before the insulin resistance and the pre-diabetes and all of that malarkey. It never occurred to me. It's only now, all of these years later, that I'm realizing I'm never going to be that person, and I never got to transition. It's like when a loved one dies suddenly, right? But it's different because when that happens, the person's gone. But with something like fibro or chronic fatigue syndrome, because the thing with these things is that something might happen and you just don't heal from that something anymore. So it's sudden, but you're not ready for it, and you don't get to say goodbye because you see you in the mirror every day. You see the sort of, very poetically, remnants of your past around you every day. And where I live right now, a very, very good friend of mine used to live in that building.
Reem? Was it Reem?
No, it wasn't Reem.
Right.
It wasn't Reem.
This woman's taking over my podcast.
So, Reem, I love you. I do. God bless Reem and everything that she went through with me. My goodness. But when he lived in that building, that was where we all used to congregate at the weekends,
right,
before going out. So
right,
we would, start at his place, have a grand old time there, and then we would go out to wherever we went out. So every time I go home, I remember those days, and it's very bittersweet, bitter more than sweet, really. So yeah, the grieving is a daily thing.
Is there, besides obviously wishing you didn't have constant pain, but what do you miss the most about Lara pre-fibro?
The freedom of trying stuff.
Okay.
Because I can't do that anymore. I can't just wake up and decide, oh, today I feel like booking a hike in Oman, for example. So I can't do that. I have to think, how am I feeling today? Okay, if I book this hike in Oman, how long is it? Right. Okay, will I be able to? So the last time I went on a hike was a few years ago. And I went on this hike with my knee braces and my ankle braces and my everything braces. And I had a guide to hold my hand as we trekked up the mountain. And I knew that I was going to be in pain for days afterwards. And actually, on the way down the mountain, I didn't walk. I sat down and I pushed myself down the mountain because I knew I wouldn't be able to walk down. I knew if I walked down, I was going to do myself more injury.
Yeah, yeah.
So I miss that freedom of just doing stuff. I miss being able to be spontaneous. So, for instance, if my niece and nephew, who were 6 and 7, asked me to jump on the trampoline with them,
it actually makes me I feel pain for you because of how you've described it.
I have to sit there and think, if I jump on the trampoline with them today, will I be able to walk tomorrow? What have I got to do tomorrow? No, I've got to go and this person and that person. Like I actually do, even though we're COVIDing now, I actually do have things to do, like go to the supermarket, for example. And I have to think, if I jump on the trampoline, am I going to be able to go to the supermarket tomorrow?
Do they understand if you say, Auntie Lara can't, do they?
They do, they know. They know, and they don't get upset or anything. And there are days when I just can't. I'm in pain, and I just look at them. I'm like, I can't jump with you today, but let's do something else.
Yeah, of course.
For instance.
And what about friends? How have your friends been? Have they, for a wonderful podcast, it would be everyone's been absolutely wonderful. But I'm guessing that there must be people, because you look perfectly fine to me. Do you know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean.
And I'm just wondering if you have anyone, and again in a work environment. What do you mean you're in pain? You look absolutely fine. Yeah.
Generally, people have been accepting. They have been. The funny thing is, when I tell people I've got fibro, so many of them have said to me, "Oh my gosh, I know a lady who's got that."
Oh, really?
My God. And it usually, and I'm sorry to say this, I'm sorry, ladies, it hits ladies more than men. More women have fibro than men. Don't know why. It just is. So generally people are very accepting. They try to be understanding. At some point they get bored of it. At some point they get bored of asking how you're feeling. And I don't always want to be asked how I'm feeling. But they get bored of, we can't ask Lara to do this because she can't move. Right. So they have to change their lifestyle to suit me sometimes, and then people get bored of it. And it just is.
Yeah.
So, there are some friendships that have lasted, and yay. Others that haven't, some that have transitioned.
Yeah.
It just depends. But it's also me. Like, when I was in a lot of pain, I cut out a lot of people. I just couldn't go out anymore.
No.
And I didn't want to go out anymore because I was seeing my friends going out and I was seeing everybody having fun. And I'm like, I can't do this anymore. And it was really annoying and really frustrating. And I just didn't want to be around them anymore. So I shut myself away.
I mean, I was going to say that, and then there's also, which I do believe that everybody should do, is that your time is so precious that your time and energy shouldn't be wasted on people that don't deserve it.
Yeah.
And I guess you went to a whole other level in terms of, how do you grade that friend as, do I go to their birthday dinner party?
Yeah.
Based on how much you're going to be in pain the following day or week or whatever.
Or wherever. Yeah. Yeah. And it's... your whole outlook on life changes. And this is another thing that fibro will do. Just like when, and I think this is true when you're grieving anything, really, you start to reassess your priorities. You start to reevaluate your life. And it's one of the reasons I quit my day job. Was because I realized that I was just miserable. And I did not want to be there. And like you say, your time has become precious, more precious than it ever was.
Yeah.
Do I want to be spending time with? No, I don't. I don't want to be spending time with these people doing this job, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And it's one of the reasons I quit my job. I was like, I can't do this. And what I do now is so much more fulfilling for me. I'm an entrepreneur, so it's a heck of a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
And, we all know COVID was not kind to entrepreneurs, unless suddenly you were creating, face masks and the like. But for those of us who weren't, COVID wasn't the best of times.
No.
But I wouldn't change it.
Did you leave Ream?
No, I will never leave Ream.
Different group, different company.
Never leave
You'd
Ream.
left her before. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, it was a different job. Don't worry, Ream, I'm looking out for you. Quite disastrous otherwise. But you're absolutely right. There are, and this isn't, it's not to make it all about me, but again, in terms of after I lost my parents, and it wasn't that carpe diem kind of seized the day, but it was just like, do you know what? Life's too short.
Yeah.
So, and it really is. So you make these decisions, and I know that I'm sure there's somebody listening right now that would be like, oh, well, that's very well and good. You're probably rolling in cash, or you've got this. It's like, no. And I genuinely wasn't at the time. I mean, I'm not now. I mean, like at the time.
Same.
At the time I quit my full-time job, I wasn't, but I knew that I needed to do it for me and the people around me. And I think this is a question that a lot of people ask me, but how do you do it? Because you're so warm and open, you're smiley, like you're just, not only are you being resilient because you want to deal with this for yourself, but you're also wanting to help other people. Like, how do you cope with that every single day? How do you get up in the morning and think, I cannot do this? And not only get out of bed, but get out of bed with the attitude that you clearly have.
Thank you for saying that, honestly.
You're welcome.
Ever since I can remember, and this is like, I'm thinking of myself at like 6 and 7 years old. Ever since I can remember, all I've ever wanted to do is make people happy.
Okay.
And that's actually the reason behind, I was saying this to somebody the other day, it's the reason behind what I do now. So I have, and I'm not plugging myself in any way, so I'm not going to talk about this longer than to say I have a customer experience consultancy. So the reason I do what I do is because I want people to have good experiences. I want to make people happy. And it just so happens that with the skills and knowledge I have from my previous life, from my career, I can do this.
Okay.
And that's why when I sat there after having done the reset program and having done so much more research and attended so many online conferences about the parasympathetic system and read all the articles and this, that, and I was thinking to myself, what am I going to do with all this information? It just came naturally that I was going to use this information to help other people. And the only way I could think of to do it, because again, COVID, was I'm going to go out there, start a blog, start a vlog, tell my friends about it, tell people I know about it, and hope that the word spreads. And then slowly, I will gain momentum. And slowly, people who have fibro and this is the thing, and I always tell people when I share, I go, share it with your network. And some people come back and they say, well, I don't know anyone who has fibro. And my answer is, you don't know that.
No, absolutely.
Because number one, yes, you do. You know me. Hi,
Yeah.
I'm here. You know me. So you know at least one person who has fibro. But like we were saying before, not everybody knows that they have it. They just know that they're in pain all the time. Not everybody who has it shares. I don't share with everyone that I have fibro. It's not everyone's business.
No. And also people might be embarrassed.
Yes, they don't know what to say. Okay, what is that? You have what? Like, what does that?
And
don't have to go into
in
that.
certain regions and cultures, it could also be deemed, and when I say cultures, I also mean the corporate culture of
Absolutely.
could be deemed as a weakness.
Yeah, it's like, do you have any disability? Do you know? I don't know how to answer that question now. When I look at job ads, I always know that they're going to ask, and I look at job ads because I like to keep an eye on my industry and see what's going on and what are people advertising for, and they'll always say, do you have a disability? And it's like, well, no.
No.
Because I can still think.
Yeah.
I can still do everything I need to do. Can I sit for 8 hours a day? No.
I guess maybe it's a physical disability, is it? I don't know.
My knees will hurt if I sit for 8 hours a day. So yes, I'm going to get up every couple of hours and walk around. Does that stop me from doing my job? No. You know, but can I sit and type? Right now, for example, I can't sit and type the way I used to type when I had a full-time job.
Yeah.
Because fibros decided to go into my fingers. But I can put on a headset and dictate.
How funny.
So
I'm rubbish at those forms anyway, because I remember once going to the doctor and I was with my sister-in-law at the time, and you know, do you have any history of a... And no. And my sister-in-law went, your mum died of heart failure, heart disease. And I was like, oh my God, yeah. Okay, sorry, tick cross.
Yeah.
And your dad died of cancer. Oh God, yeah, right. Okay, like, and then just totally, I was so used to in that kind of, I don't know,
being healthy
month period after them dying. No. That's an interesting one. Do you have a disability or not?
Yeah, I don't know how to answer that question because no, I don't. But as far as you're concerned in the corporate culture, when you're expecting me to sit for 8 hours and type emails all day, yes, this could be classed as a disability as far as you're concerned. I don't know.
The blog, what's the website, please?
Oh, it's That Fibro Thing. I know.
No way! That Grief Relief podcast, That Fibro Thing.
That Fibro Thing. Wait, because that's what it is. Everybody goes, what's this thing that you have?
It's that
fibro thing. So yeah, it's that fibrothing.blogspot.com.
That fibrothing.blogspot.com. It's interesting because your friend and mine, Giselle, it was us that we were brainstorming the name for the podcast because it was the Dead Parents Society, as we spoke about, and then it moved on from just my dead parents and whatever. And same thing, we went with the Grief Relief podcast or Grief Relief or something, and I was like, no, people will say, have you heard that podcast? You know, that Grief Relief podcast? Yeah. And we were in the Arabian Ranches down here having breakfast, full English breakfast, and we were both like, come up with
I
this
can
name.
see that actually. I can see you and you going, oh, yes! You know, spoon and you know, fork and knife dropping. That's it. Yeah.
That's what we did. We really thrashed it out. So shout out to Giselle for that one.
Hey, G.
It's okay. So I've told it that fibrothing.blogspot.com. Okay.
Yes.
And on there, because I really like it, there's different articles. You do a vlog as well, which is more kind of, for me, I'm not very good at reading and absorbing. I prefer to hear, obviously, because of my job, and see and things like that. And I love it. And it's in your sister's garden, so it's all very. What's the word? What's it?
It's all very natural and authentic and.
What is it when you sit outside? Al fresco.
Al fresco. Oh my goodness. Yes, it is al fresco.
That's what we call Arabian Ranches right now.
That's what your sister lives, with Emirates Road in the background, the constant hum of cars.
Lara, you've lived here too long. It's Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Road.
Yeah, I can't do that. Because you said you can hear Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed. Which road is that?
I know.
It's Emirates Road.
Yeah, just bump that
Katie.
one up. It's the 311.
It's the 311. Yeah.
But it is really interesting, and I think think it's lovely the way that you've invested so much time and you are continuing to do so.
Absolutely.
And have you got your Instagram up and running yet?
I have not got my Instagram up and running yet. I will get my Instagram up and running yet. And there's a very good reason why I don't have my Instagram up and running yet.
I don't want to hear excuses.
It's not excuses.
Yeah,
it's actually a reason. And I did say this in my last blog post. I said I've got what did I call it? A curveball.
Okay.
I've been thrown a curveball. And I should mention, because you were saying that you like to hear, but generally everything I write is what I say. So whether you listen or you read, it's the same thing, except for the last one where I talk about the parasympathetic and the brain-gut connection, because that one, you need to reread it a few times to get it. It's a lot of information.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So speaking it will not do it justice, will not do the person listening justice, although I'm quite happy to talk about it live in front of a bunch of people.
Yeah.
But here's my curveball. I can't look at screens anymore for a long time because one of the side effects of pregabalin is blurred vision.
Oof, okay.
And after X number of years, 4 years on pregabalin, my vision has started to blur when I look at screens. So I have to, like with the fibro, I have to figure out, okay. So today, for example, I spent 1 hour on a webinar. And by the end of it, my eyes just started to go like that.
Yeah.
So I can't look at screens for today.
Yeah.
Or if I do, I'm going to have to wear sunnies and put my great big sunglasses on and look at the screen. And so that's why I've now had to decide, okay, what am I doing today?
Yeah.
How much time is that going to take?
Yeah.
And so obviously I have to think, okay, today I had that webinar, right? Tomorrow I need to research my LinkedIn post for my consultancy. So that's going to be like 4 hours. And I have to think about that, and then I can think about. So that's why that's my curveball.
No, that's a legitimate
That
reason.
is my curveball.
And it's the same thing as well as what you were saying is you have to also weigh up the priority between your passion project, i.e. this blog and vlog and awareness, and obviously what's going to make you money. Which is kind of then weirdly what I go through with the podcast, because with the podcast I've already done a recording this morning, and then I'm still not great at the whole video editing thing, and I'm so busy. The podcast takes like so much of my time, and then I'm like, oh gosh, it's actually not making me any money, so I actually do need to invest.
Say yet.
Oh, okay, so yeah, we can put that out into the universe, but I really enjoy it, and I love meeting different people and hearing the different stories, which is why I'm so pleased you agreed to come on.
Thank you.
Even though it totally threw you when I asked you.
It did, because I did not expect. Yeah, no, I just didn't expect it.
But
so,
that's the thing, is that so many people don't realize how much grief there is in the world, but that they may or may not have been experiencing. I was speaking to a lady this morning who is actually dealing with a gentleman who is a pilot, 25 years, and lost his job last year. Because if you're a pilot, planes are always going to fly, is what she was saying. They're always going to fly, and you're always going to need pilots. And then not only did he lose his job, but as a pilot, I guess it's pretty hard to then just walk into Spinneys and start being a cashier or something. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You are extremely qualified in a certain field. So there's a lot of grief being experienced from the loss of jobs and whatnot. So as you know, I ask all of my guests to come to me with an Instagram or a podcast that they enjoy, that they love.
Yes.
What have you brought for me, even though you're not looking at screens?
Well, would you believe yours?
Okay.
No, seriously.
My what? Instagram? My podcast?
Your podcast. Your podcast.
Well, I'd like to say it.
No, it's true. It's true. And the reason I say that is because there are so many podcasts out there, and I've listened to a bunch of them. And yes, they give a lot of information. That's great. Love information. But what I love the most about yours is that it's unfiltered. Right, you will ask everything and people will answer, and I love the emotional freedom that you bring in your podcast. I love that it's not scripted. I love that, unlike other podcasts, and you're very honest about this, you're like, I'm going to ask. I'm just going to, and if you answer, you answer, and if you don't, we'll just move on to something else. It makes it more enjoyable for me to listen to.
Oh, that's good.
I can listen to this like a conversation, and I don't have to concentrate in the sense of, okay, no, I don't want to, oh no, I've got to rewind because I didn't hear that part, and now this part doesn't make sense. I can just listen and I can learn from it. And honestly, learning how other people deal with grief is very useful, especially when it's things like grief from losing a job or grief from losing a limb, for example, because I know how to deal with the grief of losing a loved one. I've had that happen. But it's a different kind of grief that you deal with when it's not that. So the grief of losing a pet, yeah, okay, I can do that. Grief of losing a family or a friend, I can do that. But grief of losing myself, like how do I process that?
And
so,
how do you measure it? It's not even tangible.
No, it's not. And the thing you'll know from experience and also from your podcast, grief. I think it was Keanu Reeves actually who said this, and I'm paraphrasing because I don't remember his actual words, but grief doesn't go away. It just changes form. So the way I was grieving 3 years ago, different to the way I'm grieving now. And the funny thing is, when you're grieving things like a limb or a divorce, you're not only grieving the past and the present, but you're grieving the future. So with fibro, I'm grieving the things that I will not get to do because of this, that I wanted to do, which might sound frivolous, right? Like riding a motorbike, right? I got my license. I love it. I have my helmet, my gloves, my jacket, everything is there. Can't get on a motorbike again. And I grieve that every day because I see my stuff every day.
I bet.
I grieve not being able to get my skydiving license because there is absolutely no way I'm going to be able to land. Not with these ankles, not with these knees. It ain't happening.
That's really interesting. I'd never once thought about that. And in terms of, so I guess a divorce or relationship breakup is exactly that. You're grieving things that
you thought were going to happen. And exactly. And I didn't know how to deal with that. And there was nowhere that I was looking that I could find this information. And then your podcast, just listening to other people talk about how they are grieving and how they're working through it, that's really helped.
Oh, good. That's really good to hear. Because not one of them has been the same either.
No, they haven't.
Crazy, isn't it? In terms of how people get over things.
Yeah. So to answer your question, yes, it's your podcast, and that's why.
That's really nice. That's so nice. As I say, I have had some quite incredible feedback, which I wasn't expecting at all. It was mainly just to start talking about my dead parents, and then it's kind of really evolved.
It's evolved
into
from there.
Something quite big, which is amazing.
Yes.
Lara, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for telling your story, and I'm going to put up all the links of where you can find Lara's blog and vlog, and eventually, as and when, we'll get the Instagram up and running. And I just wish you all the best. I'm pleased you're not in any pain right now. Are you in pain now?
Have
you
starting.
got it? Has it started?
It's starting.
Right, that's it. We're going, for goodness sake. If you're listening, you can follow me on Instagram at That Grief Relief Podcast. I'll do this quickly. On Twitter, it's That Grief Relief Pod, or you can send an email to thatgriefreliefpodcast@gmail.com. And genuinely, if you've been affected by anything that we've spoken about today, please reach out to Lara directly, and I can certainly try and point you in the right direction for whomever to speak to. Like, subscribe, Apple review, 5 stars, all of that jazz. Let's get off the sofa and have a cup of tea.
Let's do that.
Bye.
Bye.